Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel. Tap the notification bell. I would appreciate it majorly. So I was just reading about this story of another cruise liner that has six people on board, and there's actually four people have died. So and now two people have tested positive for the coronavirus. So it's not clear, and those are six people. It's not clear if the four people that died, had coronavirus. The ship's name is Zaandam or Zaandam. It's Holland America cruise liner, which is actually a subsidiary of Carnival Cruises, which is the largest cruise liner in the world, I believe, which is both American, British owned, something like that. I mean, it's just quickly looking at. Everybody knows Carnival Cruises. Actually, I think this is the fourth cruise liner within one of their fleets that's been affected by it. If I got my information right, so four persons have been it's been announced that are dead, and they're just described as older persons, and many other people on board are sick. Basically, what happened is this cruise liner, because as I understand it, I wasn't totally aware of this. There's so much news out there on the coronavirus that President Trump or the United States has basically halted all operations for cruise liners as of I think March 13th is when they announced that. They've just ceased all operations. All future cruises. However, there were some that were already in the middle of cruises when that was announced, and this is one of them, which began on I think March 7th, and it was supposed to end on March 21st. I saw another report that said it was supposed to end on March 14th, and it was supposed to end up. It started in Buenos Aires, Brazil, and I believe the final destination was going to be in Chile somewhere. And Chile refused to let them, port or land, and let people disembark. They wouldn't allow it, so with the sick persons on board and also now that it's been announced that four people have died, but they didn't have any testing equipment for coronavirus until, I think, up until Thursday, where another ship from Holland America, the Rotterdam, basically met them at sea and provided some testing equipment to do some testing, and two people have tested positive for coronavirus from almost instantaneously. I don't know what tests they were using. I believe it was Thursday when the tests were given, and the test results have already shown a positive as of today, Friday. But there's many people that are sick, so it's not totally clear if there's more persons that might be, more positive test results that might be coming, which I would suspect there would be. Because there's a total of, right now, just being reported, there's 53 guests and 85 crew members that have gone to the new ship, to Zaandam, the ship where we're talking about that was basically at sea when the halt of all cruise liner operations was announced. There's 53 guests and 85 crew members with flu-like symptoms. And like I said, there's four that have died, and two that have tested positive for coronavirus. I assume a significant number of these 53 and 85, which is what, 138 passengers. I would think that some of those are going to test positive for coronavirus, but who knows? Flu and coronavirus have similar symptoms, but two have. So now the but the cruise liner, it seems, has a fairly big predicament, because basically they're at the Panama Canal. I don't have the map up here. Basically on, I guess, the western side of it, and looking to go through the Panama Canal to basically hopefully to go onto Florida. I think Fort Lauderdale is where they want to go, and Florida officials are debating whether they're going to let them, disembark and so forth. There's a total of, on the whole cruise, over 1,200 passengers, 1,243 passengers, 586 crew members, and out of those passengers, or at least passengers and crew members, there's 305 Americans. The Holland America is based out of Seattle, and it's part of Carnival Cruises, which is an American cruise liner, American British cruise liner. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. And basically, according to Panama Canal maritime shipping health regulations, I'm just sort of paraphrasing here, and I'll read some of the information that's in this actual article here, the USA Today one. Any ship that's identified with having COVID-19 positive persons on it, isn't allowed to port or go through the Panama Canal. I mean, that's, I don't know if they're going to override that or what, but as it stands, if they had to abide by that law, basically you would have to take all the healthy persons off of the Zaandam and transfer them over to the Rotterdam cruise liner is sitting alongside of each other, near the Panama Canal, before the Rotterdam would be able to, go through the Panama Canal and then I guess on to Fort Lauderdale possibly. And then the fate of anybody else that's left behind is unknown. It's totally crazy. I don't know. I mean, how would they even be able to, obviously they would leave enough people on the ship, the Zaandam, to run the ship and sail it, and man it. It's totally, it sounds pretty dire. It really does, and I would think that if you have 53 passengers and 85 crew members exhibiting flu-like symptoms, with 4 persons that have died and 2 that have already tested positive for coronavirus, I don't know, man. I would think that there's a considerable number of persons on the Zaandam that aren't showing symptoms yet that are probably have contracted the disease. I mean, that's just the likelihood based on how infectious this disease is, how easily it spreads, and just the nature of a cruise liner. I mean, it's really pretty concerning for everybody. It's and I'm sure the people that are on the Zaandam, are wondering what their fate is. I mean, it's not even clear whether or not, even if the Panama Canal lets them go through it with the ones like the Rotterdam with healthy patients, whether or not Florida officials, I assume, because there's Americans on there and it's an American cruise liner, are going to allow them to disembark. But there's plenty of people on there that aren't Americans, and are they going to have them go back to their native destination? It started in Buenos Aires, so I assume that many of the people are Brazilian. I guess, I don't know. It's totally crazy. So it says the ship is currently adrift after officials in Chile refused to let passengers and crew disembark, setting the ship on course toward Florida. Officials in Broward County, which has seen a rise in coronavirus cases, are considering whether or not to let the ship dock, according to the Sun Sentinel. According to Florida residents Cliff Colber and Doris Colber, the Zaandam's captain announced 4 deaths, and that healthy people over the age of 70 would be moved to a second cruise liner. I think this was a little earlier on in the story. I don't know. I mean, this is dated as of today and of 1:38 p.m. But when you read other stories, there's just a little bit more detail to it. And from what I understand, they're basically moving all the healthy people off of the Zaandam onto the Rotterdam. But that's got to be a massive number of people. And basically, otherwise, they can't go through the Panama Canal, if I understand it properly. So it says the company said in a statement that 4 older guests have passed away on Zaandam, but did not specify whether they died of COVID-19. No one has been off the ship since March 14th in Punta Arenas, Chile. Another Holland America ship, the Rotterdam, met the Zaandam at sea on Thursday, the company said, adding that it plans to transfer healthy patients from one ship to the other before they are exposed to COVID-19. All passengers and crew currently exhibiting symptoms will remain on the Zaandam. The company said it is following guidance for the Center from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The ship departed Buenos Aires on March 7th for a voyage that was meant to end in Chile on March 21st. While the ship was at sea, Holland America made the decision to suspend its global cruise operations for 30 days and end its current cruises in progress as quickly as possible so guests could return home. However, the ship's passengers and crew were barred from disembarking in Chile and struggled to find any open port amid the coronavirus pandemic. The company said the ship is now en route to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But like I said, over here, it basically says the two ships received permission to anchor off the coast of Panama to meet and transfer supplies and passengers. However, the plan for disembarkation is not yet finalized. While the onward path for both ships is still being finalized, we continue to work with Panamanian authorities on approval to transit the Panama Canal for sailing to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the line said in a statement. Holland America Line, along with major cruise lines worldwide, announced March 13th it would suspend cruise operations for at least 30 days and end its cruises in progress. So it wasn't President Trump that made that announcement. It was all cruise liners in general. I think that's what it said. All the major cruise lines worldwide. Thursday, an unspecified number of patients with respiratory symptoms on board the Zaandam were tested for COVID-19, two of which came back positive. Flu and respiratory symptoms and coronavirus symptoms are similar, so the cruise line told passengers to stay in their staterooms on Sunday. And that was, earlier in the week. So it says passengers will be separated based on their condition between the two ships. Today we announced a plan to transfer groups of healthy Zaandam guests to Rotterdam with strict protocols for this process developed in conjunction with the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Holland America statement: only those who have not been ill will be moved, and health screenings will be conducted before transferring. A possible reason for dividing the passengers became clearer late Friday. Holland America said the Zaandam arrived in Panamanian waters on Friday and has since been following the protocol of Panama's Ministry of Health, which states that if a vessel has individuals who have tested positive for COVID-19 on board, it cannot make any port operations or transit the canal. The healthy passengers transferred to the Rotterdam would likely be able to transit the Panama Canal and continue their journey back to the United States. USA Today has reached out to Holland America Line about the cruise line's protocol for dealing with critical illness on board. As you can imagine, ships don't have a very sophisticated high level to deliver. I think there's 4 nurses and 4 doctors on the Zaandam, and on the Rotterdam there was 2 doctors and 4 more nurses that arrived. But if you have many ill patients, or many patients that will be becoming ill in the very near future too. I mean, it sounds, like a pretty awful situation. And what I was looking for is what the fate of the Zaandam is going to be, and the sick patients. Where are they going to go? And do they have to go back around all of South America to get back to Florida? And are they even able to do that? Do they have the fuel to do that? I mean, if they can't port, at there, and nobody's letting them. Well, I'm sure somebody will let them fuel or whatever. I don't know. So that's pretty much the story there for now. And thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. And I will see you in the next video. Later, man.